If you're watching this, you probably think you know the internet. You know the memes, the trends, the viral videos, the endless scroll of social media. But there's another side to the web. A place that's not indexed by Google, not policed by moderators, and not meant for the faint of heart. It's called the dark web, and it's not just a myth or a plot device in a bad horror movie. It's real, it's vast, and it's home to things most people can't even imagine. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 4 true stories from the dark web. Stories that will make you question every click, every download, and every stranger you've ever met online. These aren't urban legends. These are real experiences, sent in by people who wish they'd never gone looking for what lurks in the shadows. If you think you're ready, keep watching. But don't say I didn't warn you. Story 1. The Red Room Invitation. I was 19 when I first heard about red rooms. If you don't know, a red room is supposedly a live stream where people pay to watch, and sometimes control unspeakable acts. Most people say they're just an urban legend, a story to scare kids away from the dark web. I thought so too, until I got an invitation. It started with a message on a forum I used for downloading rare music. The user's name was just a string of numbers and letters, and the message was simple. You seem curious. Want to see something you'll never forget? There was a link, but it wasn't a normal URL. It was an Onion address only accessible through Tor. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted the message and moved on. But I was bored, and I was curious, and that's always a dangerous combination. I waited until midnight when my parents were asleep and opened the link. The page was black with a single line of red text. The show starts in 10 minutes. There was a chat box and people were already talking. Most of it was in English, but some was in Russian, some in what looked like Arabic. The usernames were all random strings like mine. I typed, "What is this?" And someone replied instantly, "Just watch." The screen flickered and a video feed appeared. It was a dimly lit room with a single chair in the center. A man in a black mask entered, dragging a woman by the arm. She was crying, begging in a language I didn't understand. The chat exploded with messages, some cheering, some asking for specific things to happen. I felt sick. I wanted to close the window, but I couldn't look away. Then the man looked straight into the camera and said, in perfect English, "We have a new viewer tonight. Welcome." My heart stopped. The chat went wild, people typing my username over and over. "Let's give our guest a choice," the man said. "Type 1 to let her go. Type 2 to see what happens next." I froze. My hands were shaking. I typed 1 and hit enter. The chat was split, but more people typed 2. The man laughed, a horrible, distorted sound. "Democracy wins," he said, and the feed cut to black. I sat there staring at the screen, my heart pounding. Then a new message appeared. "Thank you for participating." My computer crashed. When I rebooted, everything was normal. The message was gone, the link didn't work anymore. But for weeks after, I got emails from random addresses, all with the same subject line. "Did you enjoy the show?" I changed my email, wiped my hard drive, even got a new laptop. But sometimes late at night, I still get that feeling. The sense that someone is watching me through the screen. I never went back to the dark web. I never told anyone what happened, not even my closest friends. But I still wonder, was it real? Or was it just a sick game designed to scare people like me? Either way, I'll never forget the look in that woman's eyes, or the sound of that man's laugh echoing through my headphones. Music shifts, a little darker. Story 2. The marketplace that wasn't. You've probably heard of dark web marketplaces. Places where you can buy anything, from fake IDs to stolen credit cards to things much, much worse. Most of them are scams, or honeypots set up by law enforcement. But some are real, and some are more dangerous than you can imagine. I was in college, broke and desperate when I decided to try my luck. I'd read about people making money by reselling rare electronics bought cheap on the dark web. It sounded risky, but I was young and stupid and thought I was smarter than everyone else. I found a marketplace that looked legit, slick interface, escrow system, hundreds of positive reviews. I created an account, bought some Bitcoin, and placed an order for a new iPhone at half the retail price. The seller messaged me right away, asking for my address. I hesitated, but he said it was necessary for shipping. I gave him a P.O. box just to be safe. A week later, a package arrived. It was heavier than I expected. I opened it, and inside was a phone box wrapped in layers of bubble wrap. But when I opened the box, there was no phone, just a single sheet of paper, with a photo of me sitting at my computer. The photo was taken from outside my window. I freaked out, slammed my laptop shut, and ran to the window. There was no one there, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That night, I got a message on the marketplace. "Nice place you have. Be careful who you trust." I deleted my account, wiped my computer, and moved out of that apartment as soon as my lease was up. I never found out who took that photo, or how they found me. But I learned the hard way that on the dark web, you're never as anonymous as you think. Story 3. The Disappearing Friend. I always thought the stories about people vanishing after visiting the dark web were just that. Stories. Urban legends. Cautionary tales to keep kids from poking around where they shouldn't. But then it happened to someone I knew. Not a close friend, but someone I'd grown up with. Someone whose laugh I could still hear in my head. His name was Tyler, and he was the kind of guy who always wanted to push boundaries, to see how far he could go before something pushed back. We reconnected during our first year of college, mostly through group chats and the occasional late-night gaming session. Tyler was obsessed with the dark web. He'd talk about it constantly, sending us links to weird forums, screenshots of bizarre marketplaces, and stories about things he'd seen. Most of us just rolled our eyes, but he was relentless. He wanted to find something real, something that would prove all the rumors were true. One night, he messaged me out of the blue. "Dude, I found something. You have to see this." He sent me a link, another .onion address, and told me to open it with Tor. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. The site was a mess of broken images and strange symbols, but there was a chat box in the corner. Tyler was already there, his username lighting up the screen. "Watch this," he typed. Suddenly the site refreshed and a video feed appeared. It was grainy, black and white, showing what looked like a basement. There was a single chair in the center, and a figure slumped over, their face hidden by their hair. The chat exploded with messages, most of them in languages I didn't recognize. Tyler typed, "Is this real?" And someone replied, "Wait and see." The figure in the chair started to move, slowly lifting their head. I felt a chill run down my spine. The person looked straight into the camera, their eyes wide and terrified. Then without warning, the feed cut out. The site went dark and the chat box disappeared. Tyler messaged me, "What the hell was that?" I didn't know what to say. I told him to log off, to forget about it. He just laughed, said he was going to dig deeper. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. The next day, he didn't show up for class. His phone went straight to voicemail, and his social media accounts went silent. At first, we thought he was just messing with us, trying to freak us out. But days turned into weeks, and there was still no sign of him. His parents filed a missing person report, but the police couldn't find anything. His laptop was wiped clean, his phone was missing, and there were no clues about where he'd gone. I tried to forget about it, to convince myself that he'd just run away or started a new life somewhere. But sometimes late at night I'd get messages from random accounts, just a single word, "Watch." I never replied. I never went back to the dark web. But I still wonder what happened to Tyler, and if he ever found what he was looking for. Music shifts, a little more urgent. Story 4. The game that played me. I've always loved puzzles. Riddles, escape rooms, ARGs, anything that made me think, that made me feel like I was part of something bigger. So when I heard about a dark web game that promised to change the way you see the world, I couldn't resist. I hesitated, but the curiosity came through a private message on a forum I frequented. I set up a burner laptop, the user covered my webcam, and clicked the link, and that it would test my limits in ways I couldn't imagine. Face appeared. The first challenge was heavily modulated, impossible to identify. Riddles hidden in the source code of the website. You've made it further than most. Feeling a rush of excitement with each correct answer, the screen flickered. The next challenge was harder. Suddenly I was looking at a message using a cipher I'd never seen before. The camera panned slowly. It took me hours, but I cracked it. The final challenge was in my chest. You're good at puzzles, the voice said. But are you good at staying safe? The feed cut out and my laptop crashed. When I rebooted, everything was gone. The game, the messages, the files. It was like it had never happened. But for weeks after, I felt like I was being watched. I'd see strange cars parked outside my house, get calls from blocked numbers, hear footsteps outside my window at night. I changed my routines, stopped going online, even moved to a new apartment. But the feeling never went away. The game was over, but I was still playing. Music fades, replaced by a low, ominous hum. The dark web is a place where curiosity can be deadly, where anonymity is an illusion, and where the line between reality and nightmare is razor thin. These stories aren't just warnings. They're reminders that some doors should never be opened, and some questions should never be asked. If you value your safety, your sanity, and your sense of reality, stay away from the dark web. Because once you've seen what's out there, you can never unsee it. You might think these stories are just rare, isolated incidents, unlucky people stumbling into the wrong corners of the internet. But the truth is, the dark web is designed to prey on curiosity, to lure in the unsuspecting with promises of secrets, freedom, or even just a thrill. It's a place where the rules are different, where the usual boundaries of right and wrong, safe and unsafe, are blurred until you can't tell which way is up. And the scariest part? Most people who get in too deep never realize it until it's too late. Let's go back to the first story for a moment. The Red Room invitation. It's easy to dismiss it as a hoax, a sick prank played by someone with too much time and too little empathy. But what if it wasn't? What if somewhere out there really are people willing to pay to watch the worst things imaginable? The internet has always been a mirror, reflecting the best and worst of humanity. On the dark web, that mirror is cracked, warped, and stained with things you can't scrub away. The person who received that invitation wasn't looking for trouble. They were just curious, just bored, just a little too willing to click a link. That's all it takes. One click and suddenly you're part of something you can't control, something you can't escape. Contrast that with the second story, the marketplace that wasn't. Here, the danger wasn't in what was being sold, but in the illusion of safety. The site looked professional. The reviews were glowing. The process seemed secure. But the dark web is built on deception. Every layer of encryption, every anonymous account, every fake review is another mask, another way to hide the truth. The person who ordered that phone thought they were being smart, using a P.O. box, keeping their real identity hidden. But the dark web is full of people who are smarter, more patient, and far more dangerous. The photo in the box wasn't just a threat, it was a message. You're never as hidden as you think. And then there's Tyler, the friend who disappeared. His story is the one that haunts me the most, because it's the most relatable. Who hasn't been tempted to dig a little deeper, to see what's really out there? Tyler wasn't a criminal or a hacker or a thrill seeker. He was just a kid who wanted to know the truth. But the dark web doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care if you're just looking, just curious, just passing through. Once you're in, and sometimes you don't get to leave. The fourth story, the game that played me, is a reminder that the dark web isn't just a place. It's a mindset. It's the feeling that you're being watched, that you're never really alone, that every shadow hides a pair of eyes. The puzzles, the challenges, the sense of accomplishment, they're all bait, designed to draw you in, to make you feel special, chosen, invincible. But the game is always rigged. The house always wins. And when you lose more than just a game. Music shifts, a subtle crescendo. What ties all these stories together isn't just the dark web itself, but the way it preys on our deepest fears and desires. The fear of being watched, of being powerless, of losing control, the desire to know more, to see behind the curtain, to be part of something secret and forbidden. The dark web offers all of that and more. But the price is always higher than you expect. It's easy to think, that would never happen to me. I'm careful. I know what I'm doing. But the people in these stories thought the same thing. They took precautions, used fake names, covered their tracks. It didn't matter. The dark web is a place where the usual rules don't apply, where the predators are always one step ahead, and where the consequences are real, even if the threats seem distant or abstract. If you're still watching, you might be feeling a mix of emotions, fear, curiosity, maybe even disbelief. That's normal. The dark web thrives on that tension, that push and pull between wanting to know more and wanting to run away. But remember, every story you've heard tonight started with someone just like you. Someone who thought they were safe. Someone who thought they were in control. Someone who thought they could handle whatever they found. But the dark web doesn't care about your confidence. It doesn't care about your precautions. It only cares that you're there, that you're watching, that you're playing the game. And once you're in, it's not always easy to get out. Music softens, a single note lingering. So before you go looking for the dark web, before you click that link or download that program or join that forum, ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the thrill of the unknown worth the risk of being seen, being found, being hunted? Because on the dark web, you're never just a spectator. You're always a participant, whether you realize it or not. And sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that never get told. The ones that end with a screen going dark, a phone going silent, a person disappearing without a trace. You might be wondering why people go to the dark web at all. Why risk it? Why even take that first step? The answer is as old as humanity itself, curiosity. The same force that drives us to explore, to invent, to push boundaries, also leads us into danger. The dark web is a digital wilderness, a place where the rules are different and the consequences are real. For some, it's about rebellion, breaking free from the sanitized, monitored world of the surface web. For others, it's about access, finding things that are hidden, forbidden, or simply unavailable anywhere else. But for most, it's just curiosity, the need to know, the need to see for themselves. But the dark web is not a place for tourists. It's not a haunted house you can walk through for a cheap thrill and then leave behind. It's a living, breathing ecosystem, full of people who know how to find you, how to use you, how to make you part of their story, whether you want to be or not. And the scariest part is, you never really know who's on the other side of the screen. It could be a bored teenager, a seasoned hacker, a criminal mastermind, or someone much, much worse. Let's take a closer look at what happens when you cross that line. The first story, the Red Room Invitation. The protagonist was just a bored teenager looking for something new. But the moment they clicked that link, they became part of something much bigger. Something they couldn't control. The chat, the masked man, the woman in the chair. It all felt like a nightmare, but it was real enough to leave scars that never fully healed. The emails that followed, the sense of being watched, the fear that never quite went away. Those are the real consequences of curiosity on the dark web. In the second story, the marketplace that wasn't, the danger was more subtle but just as real. The protagonist thought they were being smart, using a P.O. box, keeping their identity hidden. But the dark web is full of people who are smarter, more patient, and far more dangerous. The photo in the box wasn't just a threat, it was a message. You're never as hidden as you think. The sense of safety, the illusion of control was shattered in an instant. And that's the real horror of the dark web. The realization that you're never really alone, never really safe, never really in control. Tyler's story is a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks they can outsmart the system. He was clever, resourceful, and determined. But the dark web doesn't care about your intelligence or your intentions. It only cares that you're there, that you're watching, that you're playing the game. And sometimes the game plays you. Tyler disappeared without a trace, leaving behind nothing but questions and a lingering sense of dread. His story is a reminder that the dark web is not a place for the curious or the careless. It's a place where the stakes are higher than you can imagine, and the consequences are permanent. The fourth story, the game that played me, is perhaps the most relatable of all. Who hasn't been tempted by a challenge, a puzzle, a chance to prove themselves? The dark web is full of games, riddles, and challenges designed to lure in the unsuspecting. But the real game is always the same: control. The moment the protagonists saw the live feed of their own street, they realized the truth. The game wasn't about solving puzzles or cracking codes. It was about power, about showing them how easily they could be found, watched, and manipulated. The sense of accomplishment was replaced by fear, and the game was over. But the feeling of being watched, of being hunted, never went away. Music shifts, a cold, metallic undertone. The dark web is a place where the usual rules don't apply. Anonymity is an illusion, safety is a lie, and trust is a weakness. Every story you've heard tonight is a reminder that the dark web is not a place for the curious or the careless. It's a place where the predators are always one step ahead, and the consequences are real. Even if the threats seem distant or abstract, if you're still watching, you might be feeling a mix of emotions: fear, curiosity, maybe even disbelief. That's normal. The dark web thrives on that tension, that push and pull between wanting to know more and wanting to run away. But remember, every story you've heard tonight started with someone just like you, someone who thought they were safe, someone who thought they were in control, someone who thought they could handle whatever they found. But the dark web doesn't care about your confidence. It doesn't care about your precautions. It only cares that you're there, that you're watching, that you're playing the game. And once you're in, it's not always easy to get out. Music softens, a single note lingering. So before you go looking for the dark web, before you click that link or download that program or join that forum, ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the thrill of the unknown worth the risk of being seen, being found, being hunted? Because on the dark web, you're never just a spectator. You're always a participant, whether you realize it or not. And sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that never get told. The ones that end with a screen going dark, a phone going silent, a person disappearing without a trace. If you're still here, still listening, you might be wondering what separates those who escape the dark web unscathed from those who don't. Is it luck? Is it skill? Or is it just a matter of time before curiosity catches up with everyone? The truth is, the dark web is a place where the odds are always stacked against you. Even the most careful, the most paranoid, the most tech-savvy can find themselves outmatched by someone with more experience, more patience, or simply less to lose. But there's another side to these stories, a thread that runs through each one, a sense of isolation. The dark web doesn't just threaten your safety. It threatens your sense of reality, your trust in others, your belief that the world is, at its core, a safe place. After an encounter with the dark web, even the most mundane things can feel sinister. A knock at the door, a flicker on your screen, a stranger's glance in a crowded room. The world feels different, as if the shadows are just a little bit deeper, the silence just a little bit heavier. Let's revisit the first story, the Red Room invitation. The protagonist never told anyone what happened. not their friends, not their family. The fear wasn't just about what they saw, but about what it meant. That someone, somewhere knew who they were, what they'd done, and could reach out at any time. The isolation became a prison, one built not of walls, but of secrets and silence. That's the real power of the dark web. It makes you feel alone, even when you're surrounded by people. In the second story, The Marketplace That Wasn't, the protagonist's sense of security was shattered in an instant. The photo in the box was more than a threat. It was a violation, a reminder that the walls we build around ourselves, digital or physical, are never as strong as we think. The fear followed them, even after they moved, even after they tried to erase every trace of their online life. The dark web has a way of lingering, of leaving marks that don't fade with time. Tyler's disappearance in the third story left a hole in the lives of everyone who knew him. His friends, his family, even the people who only knew him online. All left with questions that would never be answered. The dark web doesn't just take people. It takes closure, it takes peace of mind. The uncertainty is its own kind of horror. A slow, gnawing dread that never quite goes away. And in the fourth story, The Game That Played Me, the protagonist's love of puzzles became their undoing. The sense of accomplishment, the thrill of the chase, all turned to ash the moment they realized they were the target. The game was never about winning. It was about control, about showing them how easily their life could be invaded, their privacy stripped away. The fear became a constant companion, a shadow that followed them from one apartment to the next. Music shifts, a faint heartbeat in the background. What all these stories have in common is the way the dark web changes you. It's not just about what you see or what happens to you. It's about how you see the world afterward. The sense of safety, of normalcy, is gone. Every sound, every shadow, every stranger becomes a potential threat. The internet, once a place of connection and discovery, becomes a minefield. Every click a risk, every message a potential trap. But there's something else too. A lesson, hidden beneath the fear. The dark web is a reminder that the world is bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than we like to believe. It's a place where the rules are different, where the usual boundaries don't apply. But it's also a place that only has power over you if you let it. The people in these stories made mistakes, took risks, let their curiosity get the better of them. But they also survived, learned, and in their own way found a way back to the light. If you take anything from these stories, let it be this. Curiosity is a powerful thing, but it's not always your friend. Some doors are closed for a reason. Some secrets are better left undiscovered. And some places, like the dark web, are best left unexplored. Music fades, replaced by a soft, uneasy silence. So the next time you find yourself tempted to click a link, to follow a trail into the unknown, remember these stories. Remember the fear, the isolation, the sense of being watched, and ask yourself, is it worth it? Is the thrill of discovery worth the risk of losing yourself, your safety, your peace of mind? Because on the dark web, the scariest thing you can find isn't a monster or a criminal or a hacker. It's the realization that you're not as safe, as hidden, or as alone as you think. Maybe you're still not convinced. Maybe you're thinking, it's just the internet. I know how to protect myself. I'd never fall for something like that. But the truth is, the dark web is always evolving, always adapting, always finding new ways to reach out and pull people in. It's not just about the technology, it's about psychology. The people who run these sites, who set these traps, who orchestrate these games, they understand human nature. They know how to exploit fear, curiosity, loneliness, and even boredom. They know that sometimes, all it takes is a single moment of weakness, a single click, a single message, a single question asked at the wrong time. And once you're in, it's not always easy to get out. The stories you've heard tonight are just a few among thousands, maybe millions. Most will never be told. Most will never be believed. But they're real, and they're happening every day in every corner of the world. The dark web isn't a place you visit. It's a place that visits you, that lingers in your thoughts, that changes the way you see the world. Think about the people in these stories. The teenager who stumbled into a red room and was never able to shake the feeling of being watched. The college student who thought they were making a smart deal, only to find out how easily their privacy could be shattered. The friend who disappeared, leaving behind nothing but questions and a cold, empty silence. The puzzle solver who realized too late that the game was never about winning, but about control. Each of them started out just like you, curious, confident, maybe a little reckless, but never expecting things to go as far as they did. And that's the real danger of the dark web. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with warnings or flashing lights. It's subtle, patient, and relentless. It waits for you to let your guard down, to make a mistake, to trust the wrong person or click the wrong link. And when it finds you, it doesn't just threaten your safety. It threatens your sense of self, your trust in the world, your belief that you're in control. But there's hope too. The people who shared these stories did so because they wanted to warn others, to break the silence, to shine a light into the darkness. They survived, even if they were changed by what they experienced. They learned to be cautious, to value their privacy, to respect the boundaries between curiosity and danger. And maybe, by listening to their stories, you can avoid making the same mistakes. So if you ever find yourself tempted to explore the dark web, to see what's out there, to chase the thrill of the unknown, remember this: the internet is bigger and stranger than you can imagine. There are places where the rules don't apply, where the usual protections don't work, where the consequences are real and permanent. Curiosity is natural, but it's not always safe. Some doors are closed for a reason. Some secrets are better left undiscovered. And if you ever feel that chill down your spine, that sense that someone is watching, that something isn't quite right, trust your instincts. Log off, walk away. Tell someone you trust. Because the scariest thing about the dark web isn't what you find there. It's what follows you back. Music fades, leaving only silence. Thank you for watching. If you have your own story, your own warning, your own brush with the unknown, share it in the comments. You never know who you might help, or who might need to hear that they're not alone. Stay safe, stay smart, and remember, some places online are better left unexplored.